And welcome to the Jameel Rawls show. And I just wanted to make a short follow-up video. And we were getting a little bit into legal lingo, or you say lingo law, but there's a difference between legal and law. You have law, then you have legal. There's two separate things. For something to be legal or illegal, it has to be established under some law first. Legal or illegal comes after the law has been established. So it's two different things. Okay, now getting into the lingo, you have people who go to court want to represent themselves. I'm not giving any type of advice. It's just Jameel Rawls. I'm just going over some concepts of mine. But you have people go to court and they say, I'm going to represent myself, and they go in as improper, which I find fascinating. Improper, because when you read it, it says improper. So improper, they represent themselves. I've also seen people represent themselves as pro se. I think pro se is based off of prosecution. I like the little Latin lingo that comes along with the law, like civil liter mortuus, which means dead in the eyes of the law. And this gets back into what we were talking about in the last video about cemetery law, which is fascinating. Another way to study law is to study mistakes of attorneys and lawyers, people who deal in law. You can get all sorts of case law and interesting information on past cases. Like a lot of people go to the state bar. You have the state bar. You can learn from that. You can learn from the Judicial Tenders Commission. There's all sorts of information out there. Like I'm talking about, like over the decades, all sorts of cases, won, lost, things you can figure out how people made mistakes, how people have recovered from injury, especially in business, dealing with business. Again. Now my grandmother was a lawyer, so I would talk to her years ago about law, and I would learn little bits and pieces. One of the most fascinating examples I've had of study researching law came from the civil rights era with Martin Luther King, and Martin Luther King was in jail almost every single week. He was in jail more than anybody I ever seen go to jail. And one of the cases coming out of the civil rights movement, it was a case where a man wanted to he was African American, black man. He wanted to go to a university that, of course, it was in Deep South. It was a white university, right? And they put him away in a psychiatric institution and basically said he was crazy. And I really looked. It was an older case I was studying, and I really looked at it, and I was like, how can a judge practice psychology from the bench? That doesn't make it like the, so I would look into these historical events that happened, definitely in the '60s and whatnot, and I'd see little things that made me think, like, how can something like that happen? And I just go into it and I learn. And the more I've learned law, the more it's helped me to interpret my own life better. Like not going into a courtroom, but decisions I make dealing with friends. Law can teach you a lot about yourself and teach you a lot about the world you live in. And then foreign intelligence surveillance court. You can pull the charter up free online and read the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court charter document. I believe it came out in 1976. I'm familiar. Foreign Intelligence, 1978, and that's really cool stuff. I really like stuff like that. It just teaches you a lot about your place in the world and the type of stuff that goes on. How different courts work differently. How different courts work differently. Space law is getting very interesting. Space law is the body of law governing space-related activities encompassing both international and domestic agreements, rules, and principles, because space exploration required crossing transnational boundaries. It was during this era where space law became a field of independent from traditional aerospace law. I just love coming on here when it talks about, you see these videos about space law and then people talk about flat Earth and all this stuff is fascinating. Because there's people, I was talking to a woman recently and she was saying that the Earth is flat. I was saying I never really looked into it. But who has been outside the Earth? I don't know anybody who has iPhone footage of them leaving Earth. So space law, what laws are there in space? Air law and space law. This is interesting. This guy's from Africa. This guy's from a country in Africa. In this short video, and he does a really good job of breaking down his views. Career in space. Everybody's on YouTube talking about space law now. Career in space law, PhD, job options. Space law is starting to get serious. I think if I was a lawyer, I think space law would be something I was fascinated in. But then who's going to protect them? Okay, you have the law, you have space law, but who's going to enforce the laws? Are there going to be a space police and a space court and a space military? Who's going to police the space laws? That'd be interesting to see a mock trial or a mock court on space law. I envision there's already real estate out there. I envision, like on the moon, there's already real estate. There's already stuff going on. They might not be broadcasting on network television, but I'm sure it's already going on. Okay, this is a short follow-up. I just wanted to add that about space law.